Welcome back, everybody. It's the 28th annual Phyllis Schlafly Collegians Summit. Great to be together. I'm here with John Schlafly, who's one of our leaders of our Phyllis Schlafly Eagles, and we have these great guests that are coming into the Washington, D.C. office of the Phyllis Schlafly Eagles. Our headquarters, of course, is in St. Louis, where Phyllis worked for many decades, and she always maintained, since 1981, she maintained a D.C. office, and we continue that presence. So our next guest is Thomas Massie. Congressman Thomas Massie is a congressman from Kentucky, the 4th District. He has 30 patents, and he has, I think, two degrees from MIT? Two degrees from MIT, which makes him smarter than all of the Congress, but we won't dwell on that. He's a member of the Liberty Caucus. He's been a fighter. You know, we work a lot on patents. Phyllis Schlafly cared a lot about that. For those of you college students, you're at the point in your life where you dream of starting a business or inventing something. America is the best place for both of those things because of the rule of law, because our Constitution protects your inventions, has a system, and it's regularly under assault, both from the leftists in the country and the globalists that want us to change our system so that they can get access to our inventions. And one of the great tragedies of the last 50 years is the Chinese regime allowing its people and its companies to steal so much from America, our intellectual property. We'll get to that. But more importantly, my staff has 3 different places, has told me Congressman Thomas Massie, who's famous. He's got a Facebook video film series that was made into an HBO film series called Drain the Swamp.
Yes,
Drain the Swamp. He was the star of that with Matt
Gaetz and
Ken Buck. And so this is like superstars. Then he's got, but all my guys keep telling me there's a new invention. You have a new invention called the Clucks Capacitor. Please explain.
Okay. Well, my wife and I raise chickens in a cage that's on wheels, and we move it every day. It's called a chicken tractor, and the chickens get to eat grass and bugs, and the cage basically just keeps the hawks and the coyotes and foxes from eating them, and they love it in there. The chickens that get outside the cage want inside the cage. Okay.
Okay.
So, but the pain is, I come to D.C. every week, and my kids have grown up and left the house. They don't want to drag this chicken coop around the yard. So I built a self-propelled chicken tractor that's solar powered. It collects its own rainwater, so my wife doesn't have to carry water to the chickens when I'm gone. And the first version of it had a battery in it. And after a year of charging and discharging, the battery went dead. And I said, this isn't very green.
No.
So I replaced it with a capacitor.
You're a big green guy.
I'm the greenest member of Congress.
Greenest member of Congress?
Yes.
How can that be?
Well, I live off the grid. 100% of our house has been powered by solar for 15 years.
You're totally off the grid?
Totally off the grid. No wires, no connections. We've got to run.
Maybe you should run the elections. You could have the elections all at your house. Anyway,
I think we need a green bill of rights, not a Green New Deal. The New Deal was a list of things the government would do to you or for you, right? The Bill of Rights was a list of things the government couldn't do to you.
Okay.
It was your freedom. So I want a green Bill of Rights, but I wonder, have you read the Green New Deal?
Is this the joke? Is it coming? The joke?
I'm serious. Have you read it?
I haven't read it. No.
Okay.
I've read summaries only.
All right. Well, shame on you because it's only 14 pages.
Oh, really?
You know, I was like, wow, this bill is short. I'll read it. So I read the whole thing in like 5 minutes, and I set it down, and I realized why it's only 14 pages. There's only 64 crayons in that box.
Oh,
look, dude, I am serious about having an energy.
Almost got a laugh out of him.
He's smiling.
He's smiling. He's smiling inside. He's laughing inside. He's a very tough crowd.
We didn't get to the other punchline.
Okay.
So I replaced the chicken tractor.
There's another punchline. I feel like Johnny Carson.
We're going back to my chicken tractor, my new invention.
All right.
Okay. The battery went dead after a year, and I'm like, that's not very green. It's a lead acid battery. What are we going to do with that? So I thought about putting a lithium battery in it, but it would go dead in 2 years. And who knows where those rare earth metals come from?
You can't tell.
Yeah, right? I don't want to tell you.
Greenland.
We do know.
Greenland. I wish it was Greenland.
So I replaced it with a capacitor, and I call it the Clucks Capacitor.
Okay, the Clucks Capacitor. Yes. So what does that mean, though? It's solar?
It's solar powered. It's an energy storage device that can store up power, trickle charges, with a tiny little solar panel, and then it could exert 4 horsepower for like 3 seconds, and it moves the tractor like an inch, and then it waits, and it collects more sunlight, and for 20 minutes, and then it moves it another inch.
Can I buy one of these yet?
Yes, I'll sell you one.
No, not sell me one. Can people buy one?
I have 12 prototypes, so we're somewhere between mass production and the beta phase, and I have 2 other farmers who are running Clucks Capacitors on their farm right now.
How many chickens can be inside? I'll stop after this.
Well, the Clucks Deluxe can hold 40 chickens.
The Clucks Deluxe?
But we've got a backyard version that'll hold like
a Mini Cooper. Cooper
yes.
which has 2.
The Coupe de Ville.
the Cooper. Wow.
All right.
How holds 12? Okay.
Yeah, well, or 4. You can, like, if you have 4 laying hens.
Okay.
But
yeah.
The big one, the Clucks Deluxe, is actually meant for meat birds. Like, they go to freezer camp in 8 weeks.
That's freezer camp. Okay. All right. Back to America. Back to Congress, the swamp.
But by the way, let me just close this out and say we can have sustainable food. We can have sustainable energy. We can have healthy food, and we can do this by empowering people with inventions. The way, throughout the history of this country, our prosperity has grown not because of politicians, but because of engineers and scientists who have invented ways to lighten the load of our daily, chores.
We're getting comments from people, by the way. I think I said earlier, you get us on all of our social media platforms, send us comments. Someone writes, "This is incredible. Mr. Massie's amazing." I don't know, maybe this is there's people out there drinking during the program.
Keep saving those comments.
All right, now, the book on patents, Phyllis Schlafly on patents, and this is now back to seriousness.
Yeah.
Because one of the things you've been up here, you're on the Judiciary Committee.
Which covers patents.
Covers patents. You care a lot about patents. You're a college kid. You're 22. Well, when you were 22, you started actually getting patents, I think, right?
Yes.
When you were in school. But normal people are not getting patents necessarily, but they're thinking about doing the things they want to do and dreaming their dreams. Why is America, you and Phyllis Schlafly, she wrote about it a lot, why is America so special on the patents side, and what's at stake with the modern moment?
Well, every government that came before our government, they believed what Obama believed, which is you didn't build that. If you did anything, it belonged to the crown or it belonged to the village or whatever. In America, they came up with this idea that you could keep the fruits of your labors, and the government would actually help you protect that so
right.
people couldn't steal it. And in our Constitution, Article 1, Section 8, Clause 8, and the Constitution is so thin compared to most of the bills these days. It says in there that the rights of inventors and authors will be protected. And it's the only place in the Constitution where the word right, R-I-G-H-T, shows up until you get to the Bill of Rights.
Huh, wow.
So it was the first right they protected was
right.
the right to invention. So what they knew is if you let people keep what they create, they'll create more, and there'll be so much of it that they could share. And the investors, if they can get a clear title, it's like a piece of property. A deed, a patent is like a deed. If you can get a deed to a piece of property, you're willing to build on it and improve it.
Right.
And if you can't, the property never gets improved. It's the same way with the patent. So that really fueled a lot of invention. And Phyllis was great. She pointed out that these inventions did more to liberate women from their daily chores than any politician ever did. Think about the dishwasher, the clothes washer, the toaster.
Right. The Clucks Capacitor.
The Clucks Capacitors liberated my wife.
Exactly.
By the way, my house is off the grid.
Uh-huh.
And I designed the whole power system. I took a battery out of a wrecked Model S Tesla and rewired it and runs the house.
Sure.
Which,
why wouldn't you?
But my wife, who also went to MIT,
right.
She says our house is my science project, and she's the mouse. and I rearrange the maze, and I come back every weekend and see how if the mouse found the cheese.
Yeah,
but she's a brilliant lady, MIT graduate, and we started a company in college. So you can do this. We got married. I entered graduate school. She entered her junior year of college, and we started a company all in the same month.
Wow.
It was a real busy month.
I'd say.
And we both worked at the MIT Artificial Intelligence Lab on virtual reality. And the ironic thing is now I'm here in Congress, which I call virtual reality, working with artificial intelligence. The big exception, Burgess Owens, my friend who preceded me.
Of course.
But for the most part, there's a lot of artificial intelligence here.
Back to patents.
Yeah.
Right now, at the last 15 years, 10 years, 5 years, we're seeing the power of big tech come in. We sit here a lot and we talk about the power of big tech on, controlling what we see, shaping young people's minds, which is neuroscience. I mean, this is a big thing, but I'm just talking about the dominance of the finances of these companies on patents, because they don't want the patent system. Tell us what that progression's been. It was under Obama, but tell folks what it means, college students.
Well, patents, contrary to popular belief, patents protect the little guy. Like when my wife and I developed our first technology in our married student housing apartment, and we took it to a trade show, we were afraid that one of the big, there was tech at the time, it was different names. At the time it was Microsoft and IBM. We were afraid that they would steal our idea. But the patent allowed us to show the world what we had created without having our idea stolen and ripped off within 3 months.
Right.
So patents are important for that reason. But the big tech, they know it too. They don't need patents. They've got all the eyeballs looking at their screens. They have a virtual monopoly on things, and they don't want any competition. The way these companies grow now, for the most part, okay, they have engineers on staff, but they're not nearly as motivated as an engineer in a dorm room or in a garage coming up with an idea that could make them rich, not that could get them a salary, right? So the little guys are really incentivized, and the big tech, they grow by buying these small guys, but they wouldn't have to buy them. They could just rip them off. And so they find it a nuisance that they have to pay somebody for these inventions. And so they've been up here lobbying Congress. They were co-resident with the Obama White House. I don't want to name the companies, but they were inside the patent office. They were inside the White House. And they were they were in Congress. I saw CEOs in the elevator. They got mad when they saw me see them, and I recognized them. And they were up here lobbying us to ruin our own patent system. Meanwhile, China is improving theirs because they saw how America grew in 200 plus years because of the patent system. So that's the real travesty is the cronyism and the dilution.
What do you do about big tech? You're a conservative, right? You're a conservative, and you even lean on the libertarian side and say, leave people to sort it out. But what do you do with big tech now, with the dominance they have, both in controlling messages, which whatever the control, if they were controlling only for your side, you're the kind of guy that would say, wait a second, this isn't right. I know that. But what do you do about the size? Because it's not just patents; it's life.
Yeah. Well, let me tell you what you don't do. You don't set up a regulatory agency in Washington, D.C. and expect conservatives are going to move to the swamp and just gleefully regulate these companies. No, you will end up with a bunch of Democrats, and they will control the what can be regulated. So you don't want to regulate it in D.C. I'm really reluctant to go in and try to write laws to say, once you get this big, you can't get any bigger. I mean, that's what Obamacare, the exception, the 50-person, we don't need a 500-person or a 5,000-person exception for companies either. I think what you do is you make sure the playing field is level. You don't give big tech special privileges and exemptions. And you make sure the patent system and the copyright system and trademark system, you make sure all of that's solid so that when the little guys come up with a new idea and a new name like Clucks Capacitor, like John Deere might steal my Clucks Capacitor.
Did you trademark it?
I've trademarked it, I've patented it, and I filed an LLC as a company.
Did you try to copyright that joke earlier? Because I wouldn't bother.
No, there's no intellectual property. Like, they would foreclose on most congressmen on their intellectual property. It'd be a foreclosure sale.
Well, now college students watching, and they're thinking of like, I'd love to own my own business. I'd love to invent my own stuff, and it doesn't feel easy right now. It was probably, you'd say, oh, it's never easy. I know, but what's your best sort of rah-rah, you can do it, it's America speech?
Would you get mad if I quote Elon Musk?
No, why would I get mad?
Somebody asked Elon Musk to give some words of encouragement to entrepreneurs. And he said, if you need words of encouragement, don't be an entrepreneur. No, I know, like, the great thing when you're young is do it before you have a house payment and a car payment and kids. And, like, you can take on more risk now. And as you get older, it's hard to be risky. So do it now while you have more freedom. And that would be my advice. To start your company, it doesn't have to be a patent company. Maybe you're really good with people skills. Frankly, I'm not. I was like, I would rather, sit in front of a computer most days than come to Congress and slap each other on the back. Hey,
some of the people in Congress would prefer you sit in front of a computer.
Oh, they would. That's why I come back.
But that's my last question. You've been in battles, real battles, among your friends.
Yeah.
Meaning people, and really not even with President Trump.
Yeah, he got mad at me one day.
Well, one day. I think it was more than one day. And you stay very happy about it, joyful.
Yeah.
Well, I'm being serious. How do you do that? Because, really nasty stuff.
Well, I had one of the leaders, this was when we were in the majority of the Republican Party, I'm not going to say who it was, come up to me on the floor and say, Massie, why are you always happy? I think he was having a bad day. He went, why are you always happy? Why are you always smiling? I said, well, 1% of the time I'm winning. And that might be an overestimate. And 99% of the time, you guys have this so screwed up, I have to laugh. But let me tell you what keeps me going. There's 435 people in the House of Representatives, and they said, what can one person do? Last March, this was a year ago in a few months, they sent us an email and said, we're going to spend $2 trillion, and you also just stay home because of COVID, and Nancy Pelosi will just pass this bill by herself. And I got out my Constitution, and I was like, no, that's not how this works. Right. You have to have a quorum. So I sent out a little tweet, and I said, y'all are going to have to come back to work. And I did. I drove to D.C. overnight. I got here. I camped out, literally in my car, because there was no place to stay. I slept in my car, and then I went to the floor in a wrinkled suit and said, the Constitution says there has to be a quorum, and everybody had to come to D.C. to vote on it. You don't suspend the Constitution for any kind of virus or anything, right? The Constitution is for when things get rough, right? Not when things are easy. So I said, Nancy Pelosi called me a dangerous nuisance. Donald Trump called me third-rate grandstander. He said, throw me out of the party. It's all good. We patched things up. And CNN said I was the most hated man in Washington, D.C. Okay. That's the only time, by the way, they ever got the headline right on a news story. But here's what keeps me going. One person in the House, 1 out of 435. If I hadn't been there, that bill, nobody would have come to Congress to pass it. We might have gone 3 months without ever convening because they would have just kept passing bills. They would, we ended up spending $6 trillion so far. They probably would have spent $8 trillion. Like if one person, even if I stopped a couple $100 billion, right, by making them come to work to spend money, and what I said, and the American people got behind me. I said, if truckers and nurses and grocery store workers, if you want somebody to bag your groceries and bring it out to your car, and you're a congressman, and you think those people should come to work, and you don't have to come to work, and you're making $174,000 a year and have the best health care and guards, give me a break. Come to work.
Right.
They didn't like it.
They didn't like it. Well, doesn't seem to make you unhappy, so that's good.
No, well, that day was rough. That was a rough day.
All right. Well, so if you want a Clucks Capacitor, there's how many in
There's
production?
12 in existence.
12 in existence. Probably going to be pricey. It's early. The early adopters are going to pay top dollar for a Clucks Capacitor. Can you have one in the city?
Yeah. We're building the backyard model to hold 4 hens.
4?
Just 4 hens. It has a Clucks Capacitor.
Okay.
It just moseys along. You could go on vacation and come back, and it's just
still
moving
there.
your chickens around.
All right, Congressman Thomas Massie, there he is. And if you want a Clucks Capacitor, call his office. I think that's the best thing. And all right, we're going to take a break. We'll come back and we'll talk with Congressman Pete Sessions next. And there's a clip of him right now, so we'll change things out. Thanks, Thomas, for coming to see us.
Right.
Good to see you.
Thank you.